Yeah, okay. So, what exactly are you trying to create?
Well, basically, I got this idea from three different sources, actually. The first one was Rustage's One Piece D&D, which really introduced me to D&D in the first place.
Which one? I'm sorry?
Rustage, you know Rustage, the YouTube rapper?
Uh, no, no.
Well, he has a second channel where he does this D&D campaign based on One Piece.
Really? That sounds interesting. Oh, you should
Yeah,
hold on, wait. There was a way to do a little side chat here. Here it is. Can you see the side chat?
did I just click this message button on the top left?
On the
I
yeah,
mean, right?
yeah.
Uh, is this it?
It should say hello world.
Yeah, I see it.
Oh, sweet. That's cool. It's a new feature. They didn't have that before.
Huh.
Yeah, you used to have to bounce back to the general chat and put your stuff there, and it was super messy. But all right,
Just a second.
what can you actually like write down? Send me a chat, the on the voice chat here, not the voice chat, but the text chat. What the name is of this guy?
Oh, okay.
Rustage. That is interesting.
Yeah, he has a second channel where he does this One Piece campaign based off. I mean, this D&D campaign based off One Piece.
Interesting. I've never heard of this before.
Yeah, I found it by accident, actually. It's in my recommendations. He does it with four basically One Piece YouTubers.
Have you seen the show One Piece?
Yeah, I've seen it, but it's been a little while. But I basically know the gist of it. Yeah, I watched a lot of these YouTubers and stuff.
Well, I'm gonna have to check this out. All right, so I kind of wanted to just get a little gist of what you were looking at, what you're familiar with. So I'll check this out. Maybe if we have to do this again, then I'll have a better feel for what you're looking for. Okay, so this is a One Piece D&D.
Oh no, no.
Not
Well,
what you're
it's just,
making, but like what the show is about, the one that kind of got you into this.
well, not exactly. I mean, it has pirates, but I don't want to be. I don't want to be just a rehash of it.
Yeah, 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 that's fine. Okay. I'm glad to see that somebody else besides Critical Role actually got you into D&D. So many people I know, Critical Role it was their first thing, so it's like, oh man. So it's good to see that other D&D YouTubers are starting to make their way up there.
Yeah.
But all right, cool. So, interesting. What do you
Because,
want your campaign to be like?
well, I want to be like kind of an alt history with a bit of fantasy mixed in. You know.
Yeah, sure. Do you have any specific story plots in mind?
Well, since it's about pirates and all that, I'm thinking about Atlantis.
Atlantis. That means Atlantis is there's a D&D book, a module, Waters Deep, I think it is.
Hey, yeah, I've
Water
heard
Deep.
about that.
Yeah, Waterdeep Dragon Heist. You might want to consider that. Right now, before we get into any specifics with the campaign, because you're new, I want to make sure you feel out the general area of what you like. That's why I was asking you what kind of brought you in, so I can kind of understand probably what you're expecting from the game. So yeah, if you're wanting to do anything more in depth, if you're trying to do like an Atlantis thing, it's good to have other modules that you look at and read and get inspired by and stuff like that. So Waterdeep Dragon Heist, if you want to make a note of that, check it out. I'm not telling you to buy the book, but if you got the money, whatever. But essentially, whenever I do a campaign, I usually try and feel out my surroundings, what other people have done. That way, if they did something cool, maybe you can add it to your own game. You know what I mean?
Well, if you want to get to know what I'm trying to get a feel for, you should probably know the two other inspirations I've had to like make this.
Okay, excellent. Yeah.
Well, the two other ones aren't D&D related, but they've inspired me to kind of make this.
Yeah. That's
So
it. And songs, TV shows, movies, it can all inspire your campaign. Trust me.
the sad thing that inspired this is rather actually Pirates of the Caribbean. Spent
Oh,
the day
yeah.
I spent the day rewatching the first three movies, which are the best in my opinion.
Yep.
The first three was like a perfect trilogy.
All right. Well, are you aware there's actually kind of a pirate class in Dungeons and Dragons already?
Yeah, like the swashbuckler rogue.
Yes, yes. Okay, so we're building things up. Atlantis, do you want it to be Pirates in the Caribbean style, or is it something else about Pirates of the Caribbean or anything else that you want to include?
Well, the main thing I wanted to include was like, you know how in the third Pirates movie they had like the nine pirates?
The Nine Pieces of Eight?
Yeah, but they're each held by one of the like nine most important like pirates,
Yeah.
with like the biggest fleets and stuff. I was thinking, what if I make something similar to that, but not exactly that?
Yeah. That's
So
totally doable.
I've actually written into my notes like nine possible pirates.
So do you want the pirates to be the bad guys, or do you want them to be part of your team or part of the player's team?
I was thinking of being kind of in between. They could be bad guys, but they could also be allies.
Okay, so I'm kind of seeing the merge from Pirates of the Caribbean and One Piece, because like in One Piece, how Luffy had to go from one pirate to the other to become Pirate King. I'm kind of sensing that plus a Pirates of the Caribbean feel. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Awesome.
And
Okay.
the final thing that inspired this is probably the strangest thing in comparison to the other two.
Okay. This is actually going to be cool because this sounds like it's going to be what really changes it.
Basically, the third thing that's inspired this is Six the Musical. Do you know what that is?
No, I've never heard of that. Six
Well,
the musical?
yeah, basically, it's about the six wives of Henry VIII, the
Oh.
famous King of England. And I was thinking, like, man, these like people from history are so interesting. Like, what if like I had like characters like that, like players I could interact with them? I was thinking, okay, these like people in history, these really interesting people, like they were born before the age of piracy, so I'm gonna have to make the age of piracy happen a bit more early. So I was thinking like I'm gonna
Oh,
have to go down an alt history path, and that's how I end up with the alternate history.
that's a little bit overthinking. You don't have to worry about that much of the game because what winds up happening is your players will kind of dictate the surroundings. So as long as you have a general idea of both, then you're creating a world where you're neither forward or backwards in time. It is simply a merging of the two. Uh, uh, for example, in D&D, you may not know a lot about it, but how much of the One Piece D&D did they talk about using the toilet? Probably
Not a lot.
exactly. So, in movies, when you watch the movie, how often do you see them use the bathroom? Not often, because certain aspects of the game, you're just not going to come across. So as long as you cover the general and then leave room for kind of improv because your players are going to make the game interesting for you, then essentially you'll have the information that you need. Uh, uh, so okay, so we got the idea. Six, the musical. Now the wives. It, how do you want to incorporate them?
Well, I wasn't gonna incorporate, but I was thinking of incorporating the second one, Anne Boleyn. So I was thinking like at some point I want the players to like interact with Mary Henry VIII, but her as well, to kind of get like this emotional attachment to her. So when Henry orders her to be beheaded, like the players would have to make some sort of decision about it.
Okay. Okay. See, there you go. So you're already developing a story plot here. It
Mhm.
seems to me like the way you want it to go is essentially a rescue mission with a
Yeah,
sort of tournament style, you know, depending on how you interact with the next encounter, they could be friend, they could be foe.
yeah. Like it could go either way. That's like the beauty of D&D. Don't know how it's gonna go, but either way, it's gonna be really fun, right?
Exactly. Now, hold on. I'm gonna look for something real quick. I'm looking for the Dungeon Master's guide here because what I wanted to do was essentially ask you an important question. I know I have the Dungeon Master's guide. I'm just being lazy, and apparently being lazy doesn't work. So let me. There it is. All right. So most of the time, I ask a very, very important question that a lot of people don't realize. There are actually different styles of DMing a game. And I like to ask people what type of style they are. Have you ever heard of what I'm talking about?
Yeah, like every DM has like their own style and stuff. Some are more strict than
Well, there's actually a more specific set list that you can refer to. I'm trying to find it. I don't have it here. Da, 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 da. There it is. Here, I will. How do I share? There. Can you see that?
I don't see it yet. It's still loading.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I see it now.
I'm gonna try and zoom in for you if that's even possible. Ah, yes. Now, know your players. See, they they don't talk about this that often, but essentially there are different styles, and it's in this book that people play in. These now obviously it changes, and you can add and mix and match however you want. But really, as a DM, your job will be to understand what your players want to play or how they're going to play, or at least communicate to them what style this game is going to be in. That is like one of the biggest things that could go wrong in a game. Let's say you want to play, I'm just looking at it here, the acting style. Acting style is essentially people who really like to immerse themselves into their character, but they're not necessarily fighting or battling. They like to sit around the tavern and talk to each other and say funny things back and forth that don't really matter. uh, Versus right next to it, optimizing. If I'm gonna admit, I'm an optimizer. I'm the kind of person where I want the book, I want all the rules, I want to see what the damage does, what counters what has advantage against what has resistance, and I just build my character to just fully optimize them. And that way in any situation I can always be like bam 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 bam. Can you see now where if you took an optimizer player and you ran them through an acting style game, they're not going to have that much fun?
Yeah, I see.
So, there's nothing wrong with choosing the style of game that you want. If you're going to tell them, hey guys, and if this is your style, maybe, this is just the style of the module. I wrote this module for this style. Make sure to communicate that to your players and also find out what they like, because the fun comes from combining your style with their style. If I was running the game and you were a player and you wanted to do acting, but I'm an optimizing person, well, as the DM, I want to see, oh, you're an actor. Okay, then let's put you into some acting situations. And the challenge for me becomes, how do I make your acting situation also something that needs to be optimized? So, what if you're a spy? Now, all of a sudden, it's not that you're acting with a group of people in a tavern. No, you gotta stay undercover. You gotta figure out information without revealing your true identity. Do you see how I just combined the two categories right there?
Mm-hmm.
So, do you have an idea of of what style you like? There's acting, exploring, instigating, which is fighting, storytelling, problem solving, optimizing, and there's another fighting. Instigating, let's see the
Well, I think I want to mix the storytelling, exploring, with a bit of fighting and a bit of acting as well.
always assume there's going to be fighting. If you don't have, usually the average is at least one fight during a session, then, and you don't have to. Obviously, you can have zero fights during a session, but most people kind of expect at least one fight. Like if you said everybody roll initiative, no one would be surprised. If you're saying roll
Yeah,
initiative for like the sixth or seventh time, people are definitely going to be surprised. But always assume fighting. So you want, what'd you say, storytelling, exploring, fighting, instigating?
uh-huh.
Okay, so it sounds to me like the storytelling aspect is like fighting. Your job as the GM or DM is to tell a story, and then the fighting and instigating that comes with it. So it sounds to me like you want to focus on the exploring aspect. Uh, this would be essentially you're on the ship, you're going from place to place. Is that what you want, or do you want something where it's like it doesn't matter the location, it's all about the story? Because then it would
Yeah,
be
like I
storytelling.
want yeah, like I do want it to be a healthy mix of like them going to like let's just say a random place with like mind controlling mushrooms stuff. But then later on going back to the story and stuff.
Okay, so if you had to split it percentage wise, exploring and storytelling.
I'd say 40% exploring and then 60% storytelling.
Okay, okay. And then clearly there's going to be some fighting and obviously other parts of it, but it's good to have a handle of what you're trying to do first. So, okay, storytelling. I wonder if I can change this now.
Yeah, I should probably tell you that there's also another reason why I went the old history route with like starting like the age of piracy the early 1500s. It's because like that period of history, especially in like Europe and stuff, is really interesting.
Yeah, and it
Uh,
actually fits more into D&D than you would think because it's more low tech.
mhm.
It,
I mean, yeah, sure there was muskets, but they weren't like advanced at all. Most people still use the bow and arrow.
muskets had a very low hit chance. You could miss 100 times with a musket, no problem. Muskets were essentially stormtrooper accuracy. That's what a lot of people don't realize. That's why they lined up. That's why they lined up. Nowadays
Yeah,
in
like
warfare, you can hide places and get good angles. They didn't do that back in the day because they figured, well, if you fire your gun and it's gonna go 100 feet to the right and hit the guy over there, then let's just line a bunch of them up and wherever those bullets fly, let them fly. And that's why they would have the volleys. They would go fire all at once, and then the next row would go and the next row would go. Okay, so it sounds like we have a good foundation. Do you have a idea for a title?
tide. Let's see. I've been using a placeholder title for a while now, just Caribbean, but I haven't really thought of the title. Maybe Unknown Waters?
Toss around a few ideas. Take a minute. You don't have to decide immediately. Give it the standard Jeopardy time, stamp there, and think about it for a
Like,
second. Try and imagine what the story is that you're trying to tell, and that you're gonna make a book. A lot of GMs, they when they cross the line in their storytelling versus gameplay, they often get criticized to say, look, dude, for this, you might as well have written a book instead of played the game. So think about this as though you were trying to write a book, but obviously understand that you're not writing a book, you're making a game. And then, try and title it there. So give it a second.
Well, if I'm gonna tell a title, it's okay first we like discuss like the possible history of this different world first. You
Sure.
know, to give the feeling of this world out, so that way I can make a title.
Yeah. Oh, give me one sec. Hold on. Hello?
Hi.
I have a small puppy and she wanted to come in.
I know the feeling. I have two dogs myself.
So, uh, what were we discussing? Oh, the title topic, and you wanted to explore the history a little.
Yeah, like if I'm going to come up with a title, I kind of want to make it like get the feel of the world right, like from the title itself.
Okay.
And I want to discuss like a bit more of this like alternative world with you, you know?
Okay. All right.
If that's okay.
Oh yeah, definitely. The key to this is flushing out the details. I think flushing out the storyline is going to be the next step. So I want you to imagine you're at whatever location that you're going to play with whatever players are going to play with you. The story has to start somewhere. Where do you want the story to begin?
Well, I was thinking of the characters like meeting like kind of a prison cell, you know? I know that's a bit basic, but
No, no, no,
I
no.
think
That doesn't matter. I don't. To me, it doesn't matter. So in a prison,
from
why are they there?
well, I'm kind of imagining like it's like either in Western Europe or the Caribbean.
Don't worry about real life locations. Especially if you're gonna do narrative, uh, the players won't care. We could make up a name, and if anything, I would say sometimes it's better to make up names than it is to use real life names because people are sensitive.
Yeah. Trust me, been on Facebook for long enough to know that some people are pretty sensitive.
Yeah. So, you were saying Europe,
Either that or like Western Europe.
Western Europe, Western Europe. Hold on, hold on, I got you. All right, Western Europe, Stern Pro.
Huh?
I took Western Europe and turned it into Stern Pro. Can you see it on your screen?
Uh huh.
How does that sound to you?
Turn pro. Yeah, it's okay right now. Yeah.
And we're just using this as a placeholder. You can change the names however you want. Uh, but this is to kind of make sure that in the future, if you just take this and run with it, you don't stick to actual things. Because again, people are sensitive and you want to avoid offending anyone. Okay, so they're in a prison in, we'll call it Western. Oh no, yeah, we'll call it Western Pro. Okay, and why are they there?
Hmm. Well, I imagine for things like thievery, you know, like stealing or whatever.
Okay, so they want now you have to be careful because if somebody chooses a paladin, paladins are or priest, they're known for being lawfully good. So you might have some players that'll be like, well, my character would never do that. So how about at the accusation of the crime? They didn't actually commit it, but they were accused of it and taken to prison.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, so that way the players that are evil can say, yeah, I did it, but the players that are good said, no, I was wrongfully accused.
Yeah. So I imagine how like they get out is like people start setting fires and whatever person is nearby to cause chaos.
That's what I was gonna say. The next part about this is, does this crime have anything to do with the storyline?
Yeah, I was thinking like, like with some of them who did commit the crime, like it shows like this era is in hard times, and the ones who didn't but still got like arrested. Like it shows like
Yeah.
this area is corrupt,
Yeah.
and with the people rioting and stuff, it shows that it's falling onto even worse hard times.
Okay. Okay. I think right now we're gonna have to fast forward to the end, or not to the end, but to the this. You said the second wife. You wanted to incorporate her.
Well, later in the campaign, like
Yes,
level
yes, we're
10.
fast forwarding. Don't worry about following a specific timeline because as the creator, you time is nothing to you. And one huge error that a lot of people make is they try and start from the beginning and go to the end. That can't happen every time. Trust me, it's too hard to do. You have to be willing to go back and completely remove sections or completely add or change something. Look at how I just changed the name of Europe to Stern Pro to Western Pro. None of that should phase you because it's gonna happen. You're gonna play a game and have to go back and completely change certain aspects because you forgot to include this and this, and now there's this huge plot hole. It'll happen. So time is irrelevant to you or me right now. We're gonna skip ahead, and I'm thinking the reason why I'm thinking this is would you maybe want to use this crime to somehow connect to the second wife so that way by redeeming themselves they encounter this woman.
Yeah, like I kind of imagine they fought alongside the English Navy against like the Spanish Armada, and so they're given free passage to England to meet King Henry. They meet his second wife Anne Boleyn.
Okay, and what about their relationship or life? Do you want the players to experience?
I kind of imagine like Henry treating them well and stuff, but then they start noticing how he's executing a lot of people. Which, if you don't know,
Wait, I
King Henry
lost you.
the Eighth. Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
no, no, I already, I kind of, from context, yeah, King Henry was, he killed a lot of people and he was very quick to off with their heads, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And
There is,
it's
there's a second module that you should definitely check out called Curse of Strahd.
yeah, yeah. I've heard a lot about.
Yeah, do you know what it's about?
It's about this vampire named Strahd who lives in Ravencroft, I believe.
I don't know that much of the specifics, but I do know the general story plots to it. Essentially, he's a vampire and he is bound to a certain area. He cannot leave this area, and he invites the party over to dinner. Obviously, that's the beginning scene. They've already been invited, they're on their way. But once they enter, they realize that it's kind of like a bubble that once you enter, you can't leave. That's it, you're stuck here, and the Curse of Strahd is generally known for all your characters, all the players die. They're gonna probably die. And he's a vampire, but he's in love with this woman. And in this bubble, she's a human, and when she dies, she'll just get reincarnated as another person. And the vampire is in love with her, but every time he approaches her, she rejects him. And then she dies, and he tries again, and she dies, and he tries again, and he refuses to give up because he's waiting for that time that she comes back and falls in love with him. And the players just so happen to come across one of these times where he's adamant about having her fall in love with him. That's an interesting storyline, right?
It kind of reminds me of Davy Jones almost.
Right? And can you see how that's how the game description, the story kind of goes? I gave you a very general overview, but there's a lot more details in it. Obviously, if I was describing a movie, the same thing would apply. I'm giving you the summary. So, for that aspect, they come across her. It could be almost like a Curse of Strahd situation. So, it's Pirates of the Caribbean, One Piece style tournament with a damsel in distress, waters deep, Curse of Strahd. Okay, okay, okay. I could just put tournament stats.
Also, I've been thinking of what like races to include in this alternate history.
Well, it depends on how many different places you want them to travel. Because the only time that you worry about all the places is if you have what's called a sandbox campaign where there is no story. It is simply, okay, you guys are here, you've met up. What do you want to do? Like Grand Theft Auto. And that's the only time you got to worry about everything. But really, as long as you have a story, you kind of choose the locations. So think
Well,
about how you want the story to go.
well, I do want to be like a story and stuff, but I do like the idea of having sandbox element. You know?
Every player is going to do that to you, regardless. It's always going to happen. The story we are creating right now, you're going to throw away within the first 10 minutes of playing. Plans don't last long during battle, but it definitely makes a difference going in with one. So, this is just your plan. Once you start playing, I guarantee the players are going to wander off, miss the plot hooks, miss the little, clues that you've left behind, and turn this game upside down. But it helps to have a reference so that way when they stray away, okay, they went to this other location. You just go back to your notes and be like, all right, so the town where this happens is going to be the town that they're going to, as opposed to the town that I wanted them to go to. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Honestly, that sounds like more fun than just like expecting a story and stuff because like you can like the unexpected things are usually like the best part in D&D from what I've heard.
Oh, obviously, totally. But as a new DM, I can't recommend that to you. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
like
You are, if this is the first stuff you're working on, start small. Start small, because you're talking about the difference between making Pong and World of Warcraft. You know,
those two are very different.
yeah. And I'm not saying you can't do it. Everybody can do it, but if you're trying to start off, don't bite off more than you can chew. You know what I mean?
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And if anything, what we can do is we can try and essentially this is the introduction to that world, if that makes sense.
Okay, that sounds good.
So that way
So
you can start your players off here, give them this story, and after here be like, all right, what else do you guys want to do? You guys control the story from here.
okay.
All right, so okay, what else about this? How do you the players are in their prison. They've been wrongfully accused of the crime. Let's just gloss over them escaping for now, because I feel like we can use this crime to link to something else. After they get out, okay, they're free. Where are they, in your mind?
Kind of imagine them like, running away from the soldiers or police and just hopping onto the nearest boat and is trying to escape as fast as they can.
Okay,
And
so
then
they escape on a boat and they're out in the water. They're already gone. Nobody's tailing, or do you want somebody to be tailing them?
no, I think I want them to like be afraid of being caught, but you know the police are too focused with the ride going.
Now, you could have a sort of bounty hunter situation where the guards and all the major forces aren't going after them, but they do have a bounty on their head since they escaped. That way, you kind of have that constant pressure of Boba Fett showing up and shooting up your starship. You know what I mean?
And Boba Fett was like one of the best parts of Star Wars, you know.
So believe it or not, I'm a Star Trek guy. Sorry, don't hate me.
Oh,
Uh,
I like Star Trek too.
the way I see it, Star Trek predates Star Wars. So Star Trek, because if you know enough about Star Wars, I had a few friends who were super into it, and I'll listen. And apparently in Star Wars, they already explored the entire Milky Way galaxy. This is the end of that exploration. Well, Star Trek is about exploring the galaxy because they've only explored like 10, 20% of the Milky Way galaxy. So if you think about it, if Star Wars happened a long, long time ago in a far off place, then Star Trek was before that, then Star Wars, and now us,
And that's kind of crazy to think about, but really cool, you know?
right? Anyways, sorry, I got distracted here. Okay, so they escape
I
on a
know,
boat.
it's cool, dude. You know, it's cool.
Do you want
You
a
know, you
bounty hunter situation or no?
I'm sorry, my dog was barking.
Do you want a bounty hunter situation or yes or
Uh,
no?
oh yeah, definitely. Like the bounty hunters, like sounds awesome and stuff. You know.
Okay, so they all have bounties on their head. And that kind of gives them that pressure of like, okay, we escaped, but now if we can't prove ourselves innocent, anytime, there's that, constant risk of getting, discovered. Cool. Okay, so they're
Ooh.
on the boat. They're far off. Where are they headed?
I imagine they try to like find the nearest island.
All right. So, do did they get on the boat with anybody else? Like, were there other people on the boat, or is it just the party?
No, it's just the party.
Okay, so one of the party members, this is where you would have them roll like a perception or something like that. Probably not, because it'd be obvious. Island or land ho, whatever. They see the island. They make it to the island, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
What do you want to happen on the island?
Well, I can't imagine like at first it looks barren and stuff, but once they get deeper into it, they find all these like weird mushrooms, you know, and weird people around these mushrooms. Like they have mushrooms growing out of them, and then they later learn that it's actually a hive mind mushroom species that's like controlling people that've been marooned to this island.
Ooh,
And these mushrooms like can't be like
ooh,
destroyed in a
interesting.
normal, like these mushrooms can't be destroyed in a normal way. They need to be like the main like mushroom, the biggest one needs to be set on fire. Yeah, I thought,
Oh,
it seemed really interesting, you know.
awesome. Okay, so they make it to the island.
Mhm.
Hive Mother. Now, the Hive Mother, this all sounds like there's going to be combat. Am I correct?
Yeah, but definitely like low level and stuff. These like the people being controlled don't like have weapons really. Like some of them might have like rusted swords because like it's a really isolated island.
Are these people with like mushrooms growing on them, or like sentient mushroom people?
Mushrooms growing on them. Like it's people who have been like marooned or trapped on this island, who have been
Oh,
taken over.
like the barnacle situation on Pirates of the Caribbean 1 when they were zombies.
Yeah,
They okay.
I kind of imagine like the way the mushrooms control people is like contaminated drinking water next to the hive mother. Its roots like kind of grow onto and leak out this like spores, like liquid spores into.
Okay, so if they land on this, then what exactly is motivating the party to help them? What like there's a story here. We need to clarify this story.
Let's see. I imagine like one of the previous people who like was marooned on here, like they didn't drink any of the contaminated water. So like they off like this guy, let's say he's a noble from a distant land. So like he can't like guarantee like he can't like wipe away their bounties, but he can give them money.
Okay, or wait, hold on. I also have an additional idea. And this is a little trick that I do uh, uh, with some of my modules because remember, the
Mhm.
game's gonna change, and sometimes it's okay to allow for certain changes. In this point, I would say we could also include a optional instead of noble, a drunkard, where all he does
Ooh,
is drinks rum. So he never drinks water. He only drinks alcohol. Some
that's
and
really smart, you know?
and we could tie that into the fact that because he has all this high proof alcohol, the party could potentially grab some of those to light on fire to help destroy the hive mind.
Dude, you are amazing. Like you're really smart, you know?
Now, we could combine it into one and make a noble who it just fancies the drink. He's only ever had liquor and stuff like that because he's a high noble and he's one of those rich drunk guys.
Yeah, so basically, after watching like his whole whole like crew on his ship getting controlled by High Mind, he decides to handle his like grief from this by just drinking back some wine.
You
You know?
know, he's the only one. Maybe because of the alcohol content, it affects the mushrooms and barnacles, and they don't like it. So the crew, once they turned, they actually don't like alcohol anymore. So all the ship's alcohol storage was just left to him, and he maybe stowed off into where is he on this island? Is he like hidden in a cave? Does he have his own hut? Is he like walking amongst them in disguise?
Well, I can't imagine like the mushroom hive mind being in only the deep parts of like the island, like the wood areas. So I imagine this guy is like on his abandoned, like destroyed ship. You know, like it was destroyed in the storm, and that's how they got there. You know, and I imagine him just being in the deck, just drinking away.
And that is perfect.
Ooh, I just thought of something. Maybe after they destroyed the hive mind, like they could like rebuild the ship to get a bigger one.
I was gonna say, your party is automatically going to think loot. They're gonna probably
Mhm.
want to loot that ship. You know, they see the
Yeah.
land and they see a wrecked ship, and it looked like a high class ship, like a noble's ship. So they're more than likely your players are gonna be like, oh, let's go check that out. And when they check it out, that's when they run across the drunk noble, and he's locked himself in the ship or whatever, but he does have his gold on his ship where if they promise to help him and maybe take him, save his crew or whatever, then he'll give them
Mhm.
gold.
I just thought of something. What do we do with this noble after we destroy the hive mind?
Well, it's simple. Um,
Uh,
Essentially, once you free the crew, they can get started on working on the ship, and maybe they can offer, because remember, this is your world, it's your universe, so that ship can have whatever you want, and you could use that to haggle. Essentially, instead of just offering gold, he could offer cannons, uh
ooh.
uh uh, uh maybe some weapons or something, or magic items. Maybe he has a chest of magic items, you
Yeah,
know.
I could work with that. Yeah.
And if anything, this would be maybe if you look online anywhere for D&D magic items, you could probably pick like a handful of magic items, or what I sometimes do is I'll let the players pick their magic items, but then you don't get it automatically. I take that magic item and that's what goes in the chest. So now they know what they're gonna get is what they want. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, cool. So they see the island, wrecked ship, drunk noble, mushroom hive mind. All right, this looks like enough that they're gonna want to go through this. Are there any interactions with the mushroom people that you want to like make sure happen?
Well, they don't really talk too much, like since they're being controlled by the mushroom.
Okay,
So I
so they're
feel
like
like if they,
zombie like.
yeah, like they do talk, but just not very often. You know,
Okay,
like the mushroom is intelligent. It just doesn't find the need to talk too much.
and because they're all one hive mind, yeah, I see what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
What
Well, it's
the?
more like oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Well, it's more like a slave mind since it's taking control of them.
Okay, okay. Free the crew. Now, this seems to me like they have to make it to the hive mind, and I'm assuming in standard movie genres, the closer they get to that hive mind, the more riled up the crew are gonna get. Is that
Mm-hmm.
correct? They're not gonna
Yeah.
want. Okay, so
Can you still hear me?
yes, I'm taking some notes.
Okay, I had to take off my earbuds because I need to charge my phone.
Oh, no problem. I can hear
So,
you.
okay, good.
Awesome. So,
Uh huh.
I'm gonna every now and then what I like to do is I'll put you as the player and I'll be your game master, your GM, sorry, DM. Just so you know, Dungeons and Dragons is DM, but in general, because Dungeons and Dragon is just one thing, there's other stuff like Pathfinder and stuff. Um, the
And
general
like
term
Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah, the general term for what we do is called game master. But when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, usually they call it dungeon master.
I see.
So if you hear me say GM, it's or DM, it's the same thing. It's just I'm used to saying GM because I'm used to the more generalized term. So, as the GM, this is going to be a really cool trick because when the drunk noble says, "Look, if you guys free my crew, I'll give you gold, I'll give you magic items, I'll give you weapons." But as the party gets closer to the hive mind, the crew are going to be fighting the party. What happens when the party starts killing the crew? Oh no, there is no more crew left for the guy. So they're going to have to subdue the crew instead
Yeah,
of kill
that
them.
or either. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, they. I was thinking like they could either subdue the crew or make a mad dash to the hive, like mother mushroom. You know.
Ooh, a mad dash. I like it. Okay. So,
So like, up to the players, they can either spend more time like subduing the crew or try to get to the mushroom as quickly as possible.
well, in this situation, and trust me, I'm right now we're working on the story, so the details I'm gonna literally have to go back and be like, okay, in this part, these things are most likely to happen. But for right now, I'm gonna tell you a mad dash or subduing the crew or putting them all to sleep, all of it can happen. Your crew, your party, they're going to come up with a crazy way of solving this issue that you're probably not going to expect. I can almost guarantee it. You're going to be like, oh, wow, I didn't even think of that. So, what you want to do is you want to set up angles, places, outlets, paths that they can follow. So, a mad dash would mean that their characters are essentially running to a location. The
Mhm.
resistance to that, what would be the thing slowing them down or trying to stop them? The crew, obviously, but how are the crew trying to do this?
Well, I figured like they don't have any like advanced like weapons or anything on the island because like I said it's bad
Yeah.
stuff is made there. So I figured like just trying to pile on them. I think the main resistance actually would be like the dance like jungle like area they have to go through to make that mad dash. So
Okay.
they have to make like strength checks, like some strength checks, some you know, you know,
So,
sing checks.
okay. Yeah, so what happens when they encounter the crew? Are the crew violent towards the party at all?
Yeah, I was basically thinking that, like at first, like
Cuz you could have it
the
that
less,
they're not.
yeah, like I was thinking like the closer they get to the mushroom, the more violent they would become, and the more like angry they would be and stuff. You know?
Okay. How about this? During normal interactions, the people taken over by the mushroom, they're kind of off in their own world, doing their own thing. Not necessarily violent, but not really paying attention to the world around them. And it's almost as if the forest around them understands that they're connected to the hive mushroom, so it kind of leaves them alone. But as the party gets closer to the hive mind, maybe this isn't the first ship to crash land here, and some of the older people who have more mushrooms and more barnacles, they're more at one with the hive mushroom. They're closer to the mushroom, they're more violent, they're more protective of it. So it's kind of like if you landed on the island right now and you got infected, the more infected you became, the closer to the hive mind you would want to be. and the more violent you became.
Oh, how about like people who are more affected, like get extra attacks like an acid like throw from mushrooms, you know?
So the mushroom ones have like an acid kind of ability.
Yeah, like the more infected they are, the more they're able to use this acid. It's not very effective, but it does do some damage.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, yeah. And then,
Although,
uh,
although
d-
this is still like the first like melee encounter.
exactly. Now you can see how building this works. But once we do this, this is essentially how the next couple of steps go, and we just write the details out. Um, Now with the more infected, more acid damage, I could see that working because the ones that have very little infection, they do 1d4, and the more infected they do, the higher the die they roll. Um,
Mhm.
did you like the whole closer, more violent?
Like closer to the mother mushroom.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the closer they are to it, the more violent it is because, like, the more infected ones, they're basically the main soldiers of the mushroom.
And then, if anything, we can also make it where it's not the first ship to crash land here, so that there are a couple of like really, like older crews that have been fully transformed by the hive mind, so they're the more violent ones. So the players can actually, kill a few of them.
Yeah, like the more dangerous they are, like the older they are, the not part of the nobles crew. Like they could like kill, like they can kill them without like risking their reward.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Um. All right.
Hey, I just wait. I just thought of something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's unrelated to the mushroom stuff, but what if the bounty hunter that's going after them is a change?
Hey. Ooh, I like it.
Mm-hmm. So like it could impersonate anyone, you know?
And that way you can. I put herder. That way you could
Uh,
have it. I instead of bounty hunter, I put bounty herder. Herder. Um. But yeah, if anything, that way you could have the bounty hunter show up every now and then, kind of like Boba Fett did, where they think they're fighting a mushroom person, and then all of a sudden it changes, and it's like, oh no, you're the bounty hunter again. So the bounty hunter could be the one that kind of forces them to move from one location to another.
yeah, I kind of imagine like this bounty hunter changeling not being really interested in the bounty itself, but in the enjoying of the hunt. So that way, this
Yeah.
like higher level bounty hunter doesn't like get them immediately. He's basically thinking, I want them to be stronger before I really go after them.
All
So that
right.
way, so that way they can have a few interactions with this like character and get to
Yeah.
know them.
And what you want to do is, do you know what level your players are going to be at?
Well, I figure like the standard level one, you know.
Um, I would say maybe up that a little bit
Level
because
three.
uh, uh at level 3 is when a class really gets the traits that class is known for. Um,
Which one?
so say what?
Which class?
No, all classes. By level
Oh,
3, you kind of feel your class a lot more. As a level 1 mage, you don't really have any spells, but at level 3 you have spells. As a level 1 rogue, your sneak attack barely does any damage, but as a level 3 rogue, your sneak attack can really hurt. Uh,
yeah, like especially like they're going after a lot of mushroom people. They probably would need a few extra levels, right?
yeah, and if you're gonna have them go for a few different missions, then I would say you could even go up to as high as maybe level 6 on this and really let them pick different things so that way they can feel like they're prepared for whatever they need to do. Uh, so I would say anywhere between level 3 and 6. What would you pick a number between 3 and 6? Mind you, 3 is hard, 6 is easy.
Still want that to still be like the challenge and stuff. So I think I'm going to go with three.
3? Okay.
Like because like I know I said I didn't want to make this like last too long, but I still want to make it last like a while. You know?
Yeah. How long do you want it to last, by the way? Is it how many sessions?
Uh, quite a lot. You know, like
Could,
nothing like insane, like nothing like 5 years and stuff. Like just like, what do you think the standard like session like
oh,
what
uh,
like
um,
campaign?
well, how do I? Okay, okay. So you have a one shot, which can range from. Well, let's back up a little more. A session can go anywhere between a couple of hours to an entire day, 12, 16 hours. So your idea of a session, how long a session is all obviously up to you and where you choose to, put a to be continued on your story. But the average game goes between 2 and 4 hours, or around 3 hours for one session. That being said, you have a one shot, which can be anywhere between a couple hours to a full day. Then you have like a multi shot, which usually goes between 4 to 12 sessions. So that can go anywhere between 1 month to 3 months. And then you have long term campaigns, which can last anywhere between, I guess you would call it, 3 months to years. Again, if you want to do a sandbox thing, I would say hold off on the long one. And it sounds like you don't want to have a multi year campaign either, so that works. I would say for something like this, mind you, this is the introduction to your sandbox world. So after all this is said and done, after your players have done this, then they'll be at whatever level you want them to be, and you just hand them the world and be like, where do you guys want to go next? So all of this can mesh together in the end. I would say for this, we're going to have to make a little breakpoint with all these encounters. So, for example, your first session, uh, after session zero, do you know what session zero is, by the way?
Yeah, it's like where they figure out all their characters and what the stories like, what the world is like and stuff.
The character making session, yeah. After that one, so the first session where you actually get started with the game. And that doesn't mean that in session zero you can't start the game, but usually you don't get that far on session zero. But I would say after session one, they would be done with this hive mind section. You could probably nail this in maybe 3 to 4 hours.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So, knowing that, we're pretty much at a point where we could move on to the next plot point of your story. So, can you see how we kind of already just did session one right here?
Yeah.
All right, so session one, the party lands on an island, has to deal with this nefarious mushroom hive mind. They take care of that, free the crew. The nobleman that hires them gives them money and cannons. He can't reverse the bounty, but he can help them however he can, magic items and stuff. Uh, so if you were the party, where do you want the party to be now? They've obviously left the island. They're sailing. They're back on the ocean, or maybe not. What do you want to happen next for them?